three new machines are set to take over next year. This one's the Sony Playstation, and this one's also just been released in Japan.
Back in 1994, there was a lot of hype. A lot of hype for a little console called the Sony Playstation. Of course, there was also hype for the Sega Saturn and Nintendo's upcoming 64-bit console. But the PlayStation was making waves before it had really even begun. Arriving just before 1994 was out in Japan, it would be 1995 before it made its way to Western regions, and this is where my view of these modern consoles would begin to form. My gaming route had been a strange one. I'd shifted from the ZX Spectrum in the 80s to the Master System in the early 90s, back to a Commodore 64, then a Mega Drive, before an Atari ST and Amiga. Flip-flopping between console and computer, if you will. But before 1995 was out, I'd managed to land the ultimate prize, an IBM-compatible PC, just as the PlayStation was arriving. Now this had a dramatic effect on me because, as I was blasting through Doom, MechWarrior 2 and Descent, PlayStation owners were just starting to dabble in cut-down, low-resolution versions, which subconsciously made me think of the PlayStation as a toy. I mean, it makes no sense. I had happily been playing far less powerful consoles only a year earlier, but now, here I was with a proper machine. A machine which required you to configure and reconfigure DOS memory on a regular basis to understand how I/O ports worked, and to interpret the ins and outs of CD-ROM drivers before you could get anywhere. Those kids with their PlayStations, they were years behind the curve. This smugness led down a route of disdain for the PlayStation, completely ridiculous and unwarranted of course, but seemingly I couldn't help it. It was a subconscious thing, rooted in society's odd materialistic tendencies of keeping up with the Joneses. It wasn't until the Xbox arrived in 2001 when I actually started looking at consoles again. See, this was the year I first moved out of my parents' house, and lugging my PC about just didn't feel right. So, impressed with the Xbox graphics and the relatively low price, as Microsoft tried to gain some market share, I bought one and played Halo to absolute death on it. From there, I just stuck with Xbox consoles. If you will, I had become a fanboy. So time went on, various Xbox consoles came and went, including several variations of the 360. Damn you, Red Ring of Death!
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me.
But I noticed something which began to upset me. Microsoft would change the Xbox dashboard often, and more recently those changes haven't always been for the best. In fact, let's go through them. The original Xbox dashboard. Green is the theme, and really, I didn't use this much. Although the Xbox was at the forefront of online multiplayer, I didn't really dabble at this stage. I was too busy drinking Mets or Smirnoff Mule, something horrific in a bottle. In 2005, the Xbox 360 appeared and the dashboard was suddenly more of a focus, more important to us. To help convey this importance, we had blades. It was quite nice, it fitted the physical aesthetic of the 360, and we could navigate from left to right with ease. Everything had a place, and although it wasn't the most user-friendly, it was functional and really a design of its time. So in 2008, Microsoft updated us to a more neoteric design with lists, big blocks of content we could select, and a three-dimensional aesthetic which felt modern, clean and straightforward. This is really where we see the Xbox beginning to borrow design elements from Windows, with this design being rooted in the Windows Media Center design principles. It made us feel like kings in command of our own destiny. Well, close enough. Now, I quite liked this design, although it felt a bit trudgy at times, a bit long-winded getting to certain places. But by 2010, Microsoft had decided that flatter was the way to go. They had chosen their future path, and the Kinect dashboard was the Xbox's interpretation of this early Metro-esque landscape. Apart from a new boot screen, it wasn't much different to before though, although there were tweaks here and there, and of course, a new menu for the Kinect device. Which brings us to the Metro tiles, released in late 2011 to coincide with Windows 8 and its own Metro design, naturally. Now, things were really flat, flatter than had ever been seen before. So flat it was modern, at least that's what Microsoft's angle was. Now, this wasn't for everyone, but it worked for me. I found content easier to access, and the layout was intuitive, simple, and somewhat dignified. Rather than scrolling through long lists, we now had blocks and pages, allowing better use of directional space and providing logical access for applications and games alike. It makes perfect sense then that this dashboard was dragged across to the Xbox One, more or less, and that was fine. It wasn't a huge leap of imagination, but it allowed easy access to what we needed. Then, in 2016, things began to change, possibly for the better, but by 2017, based on the new Fluent design system, they had changed a lot, and changed for the worse. Seriously, Microsoft, what even is this? We went from an interface which was consistent in both design, aesthetic, and navigation to an illogical mess. It's like 4 operating systems have had an illegitimate love child and swaddled it with a blanket of confusion. Where do I even begin? Well, the snap feature is gone to start with, as is the live tile, which really helped mesh gaming with the dashboard, a bit like the incredibly simple implementation of carrying through the Windows 8 desktop background through to the Metro interface. You know, it just helps with continuity. But these things aren't the worst backward steps. Microsoft will tell you that this design is in response to user feedback, but if that's the case, then all they've done is taken a handful of random feedback suggestions and smashed them together into a nonsensical, disparate wedge of shonky madness. On one hand, we have huge swathes of wasted space, alongside forefront icons which we rarely use, whilst on the other hand we have clutter, disarray, and unmatched design choices which just make the whole interface difficult to navigate. We have a clunky menu to the left with menus hidden within menus, and even some of the places I use most often tucked away in here. Surely their place should be permanently on the front page, not stashed away in a bunker of obscurity. It's nonsensical, it's not user-friendly, it lacks the simplicity, intuitiveness and cohesiveness I liked about the Metro interface. It's with this in mind that when I heard someone tell me,
moving to the PlayStation 4 was like breaking out of an interface prison,
I thought, it. Let's go down the PlayStation rabbit hole. I mean, it's 2018, I can shake off those feelings of disdain towards the PlayStation, can't I? Yeah, that's the spirit. So here it is, a white PS4 in all its Sony glory. Haha, unboxing. Yes, shedding the box, plugging in the wires, setting up the things. Isn't it glorious? I mean, there are channels hundreds of times more popular than mine which just do this. And who doesn't love watching an internet person yanking slabs of plastic from a carton made of felled trees? It's the best. And I'll be honest, from the go there are touches and tweaks that I wasn't expecting from this slab of Sony plastic. Things which made me smile, like the first time I played a Mega Drive. That sort of innocent excitement based around technology packed into a chunk of plastic. From the built-in speaker on the controller to the way you can use the motion sensors to guide the cursor around the screen. These are nice features. It makes me smile, like the shape of the Mega Drive controller always does. I like this. What's more, the PS4 interface really is a design leap over the current Xbox incarnation. It's almost as if they had a design goal in mind and worked collectively towards it to create an intuitive and visually pleasing navigation layout. The space is used in a useful yet uncluttered way. You don't have to click for hours and hours to get somewhere you didn't actually want to be in the first place. You can access your games easily, your subscriptions easily, your friends, if you have any, easily. Look how there's a separate strip of menu options for settings and user options just above the application strip. It's inspiring. It really is a delight. Of course, not everything is perfect. The search function feels a little bulletin board system-like, and the inability to prioritise downloads frustrated my brimming internet connection. I don't know, maybe you can prioritise, but I couldn't find it, but in any case, it wasn't clear to me. But these are minor niggles. The fluidity of this environment, combined with the soothing background music, feels like an elevated experience. Now, my reason for obtaining a PS4 isn't just because of an interface. Come on, that would be absurd. Difficulties and challenges are the spice of life. No, I've got some items to review on this platform, and really my Xbox One belongs to my offspring, so I'm not actually abandoning the Xbox. For all the negativity I've just laid upon it, I still like the damn thing. But I did want to illustrate how the PlayStation has pleased me and how it's eliminated 23 odd years of disdain towards a platform which maybe I should have given more time to over the years. So this video is really just an awakening for me, a chance to accept that it didn't matter the graphics weren't up to PC standards in 1995, for heaven's sake. It doesn't matter that the original controllers felt a bit small, especially compared to the Duke, or that they didn't offer the expansive options of a keyboard. What matters is Sony had a clear strategy, a clear mindset and a clear plan, and that's something which has continued until today, regardless of where ideas have been borrowed or where competitors have clashed. All platforms have their place, and all platforms have helped forge us to an era of gaming we're currently experiencing. So, it looks like I have some catching up to do. Thanks for watching. Time for a quick experiment. If you thought this video was clickbait, click thumbs up. If you didn't, click thumbs up. If you prefer the Gamecom to the PlayStation, click thumbs down. Have a great evening.